right, everybody, I think we got this live feed, hopefully. Give me 1 second to check to make sure. I like to have this moving in this direction. Okay. We're live. All right, we're good. So, as I discussed in the last quick video we did about the, sorry, bad feeding over here. A couple of people who asked me a couple other questions. Some people didn't get this paperwork in the mail. Once again, this is just the former election monitor, Glenn McGordy. He's now he was the federal monitor. He's now the election monitor. He oversees the election to make sure that the rules are followed correctly, and he just goes through the vetting process of any candidate coming in. They're going to go through the signatures that have to for the petitions. Like I said, it's $250 for an individual, $500 for a slate, and then that gets they'll have to be in by Thursday, August 28th by 5 p.m. And you can start getting petitions signed by August 4th. So they give you a good amount of time to get those amount of signatures in. One thing to keep in mind, I learned this in past history. If you put a slate together and you go out and you get signatures and then someone backs out on that slate, those signatures are no longer valid, right? He doesn't talk about that in his rules, but that's been a common practice, because if someone's signing a petition, they're signing it for everyone on that slate. So if something changes, or if you change position, like say you have the person running for president and you switch to the vice president, you'd have to go and get all new signatures. So, your best bet is, make sure you got your slates together, but if there's any changes in it, get it verified, call him, put everything in an email to him. He's really good at getting back to you, but just make sure that you get all that stuff clarified. Remember too, members have to be in good standing. So I think they ask for their address, their UBC number, and their local, and their name. Try to get them to print that as clear as possible. The last ballot, the spot to write everything was very, very tight, which kind of drove me crazy. But you work around it. It usually isn't a problem. If they ask you for 250, I would say get at least 300. That way that's where you give yourself a 50 buffer in case something goes wrong with some of the signatures. And that's about it. I mean, as far as that goes, you guys should have this in the mail soon, but I believe it's going to be posted online. And if not, I'm going to take copies of this and I'll post this online as well, so you guys can take a look at it. For those that were sending me questions about it, or just didn't receive it. I think some people didn't understand what I meant when I said the president is in a paid position, but this will explain a little bit more. But it's actually your bylaws. If you read your UBC bylaws, that you'll see that the president and vice president don't get paid. They're usually appointed as assistant ESTs. That's how they collect their checks. One of the main topics someone brought to my attention is about the merger. I talked about it in my last election. They play a play on words, but the merger's happening. You can talk to people with the council. So they're not going to merge the council per se, but they're going to merge the funds and the medical and then the pension fund. From what I got from my inside and the people that I know throughout the international, the plan is to divide up the dock builders and timbermen as well. They're going to lose certain parts of the jurisdiction. You guys will gain others. The whole part of Jersey, from what I understand, will go to the Jersey local. I don't know how they're going to do it. They're going to have like a pile driver thing, but they'll lower that hourly rate will get lowered to that Jersey rate now. So those people that were working, the dock builders and timbermen, have a good area and a good jurisdiction. If this happens, it'll be devastating to us, because whether you guys want to believe it or not, right now infrastructure is where the work's at, and to lose that jurisdiction would be huge. They tried doing this about 12, 13 years ago, maybe 14 years ago, when Mike Biela was there. Mike got attorneys and put a stop to it. He reached out to the judge and everything. That's my plan here. I'm actually speaking to somebody right now to help me get an attorney set up to fight this if it happens. So I'll be reaching out to some people I didn't know, the dock builders, timbermen, to try to get their information on what they feel. But I think that we shouldn't give that up, that jurisdiction. I think that should stay the way it is. And the consent decree, the division to the consent decree will always be there. And I don't think dividing up the jurisdiction should be allowed to happen, especially in the front line of this. For you guys who don't understand what's going on, there's some rumbling going on with the Northeast Regional. Uh, some people had to step down. Some people I heard are going to get into some trouble. Um, you know, like we always say, like every 10 or 15 years, this is just something normal that happens all the time. Um, I know a little bit about the information that's going on there, but I was asked to keep quiet for right now because I don't want to, you know, give up the person who gave me the information. I don't know how many people know exactly how much that I know, so I'd rather not show my cards right now. But that's going to be something that's going to affect it. I think they could, how the international spins that, they'll probably go two different ways with it. They could either use it as a reason to try to consolidate things more, or we're going to use it as a way saying that the merger is not a good idea. Right? So I know there's some problems up in Boston right now, but they're going to get to the bottom of it. I guess we'll see what the investigations pull out and what they can cover up about it, and what can't get covered up about it. But that's something in the works right now. So I don't know if that's going to put a hinder on what they're trying to pull with us, but I don't know. Listen, I've been hearing talks about the case against the school coming up, and you know, if that happens, that's going to cause a big problem with us. We're going to lose both Paul and Dave Capel also. So if that happens, you know, I hate to see people get out that way, but you know, I'd rather see the members vote people out than see something go bad with something like that. But you know, if that happens, you know, they could use that as a weapon to try to just merge us then too, right? Put us on the trusteeship. This election would come to a screeching halt, and then they would have powers to be. From what I've heard from people that they, you know, behind the scenes now they're working on that. So whether or not it happens, you know, whether it's intentional now they're going to use it as a weapon, who knows? It could divert this whole election, from what I understand, if they get away with what they're looking to do. But like I said, it's a rumor mill, and that is what I'm being told about. I know the case is still pending. They have a lot of information going out about it. I read some of the court documents myself. It doesn't sound too good in there. You know, well, you know, would somebody be removed if there was an indictment? My guess would probably be yes. You know, the international can use this as an excuse to come in. That's the way I would play it if I was in McCarron's shoes. You know, I would use that as an excuse, come in, put us on the trusteeship, put the Northeast Regional on the trusteeship, right? They'll move Joe Geiger up a range, and then in the process they turn around and, you know, get government back and say, listen, everything's a mess here. We need to consolidate this more so it's more controllable, and blah, blah, blah. Then cut the Doc Miller's legs off, you know, take the away from Jersey. They just get Long Island, New York, and part of Westchester, and then that's it. You chop it up, and then, you know, as people fall in line when shit like that happens. People just try to stay above water. Yeah, we got a lot of people in this union who never swung a hammer, right? They have positions in this union because who they knew and who they blew, right? The old saying. It's a problem. You know, hopefully we can rectify that and get things back on our... Hold on, guys. Guys, Bella, stop it with him. Sorry, guys. Two of them will be fighting with each other, they're wrestling. We got some apprentices calling up about the work at the airport. Like I said, I helped you guys out with getting the SWAT cards. I got some other people looking for nighttime work. Listen, I don't mind helping you out with work if there's an issue with taking care of family and kids. I'm not going to be giving you a second job if you're working a first job. It's just not right. You know, I kind of picked up, I'm not going to say who it was trying to pull a quick one on me, but I figured out by making some calls that they were working for another contractor. We've got too many members out of work for that to be happening, all right? If the contractor can't use apprentices, in my opinion, they're going to have to move up to a journeyman, and that's my pressure on the contractor. Like, listen, if we can't get apprentices to fill these positions, then we got to get mechanics up there, right? These mechanics aren't going to learn unless we give them opportunity as well, right? Not everybody, you know, learns every aspect of this trade coming out. We work with partners and we work on one aspect of the business, and it's hard to get a jump on things to get moving forward. But our problem, everyone keeps asking about the retirement medical. What's going to happen with the retirement medical? As far as I can tell you guys, if you just look around the rest of the country, you know, prior practice has always been they cut their retirement medical. My gut tells me that The medical's being run by Frank Spencer. And, when they get into these things, the first thing they do is they talk everyone on the ninth floor into giving up their union cards, right? When I was in the industry back in the day, my grandfather, my uncles, and everything, they all kept their books, right? Now, they give them all up. I think even my aunt gave her card up. There's probably no reason to hold on to it anymore for a lot of these members. But the problem is, when you do that, you don't have a vote. You don't have a say. Right? I have a very strong belief in our retirees deserve what we promised them, right? They did their part. They worked their careers. They put the 30, 40 years into the industry, and for us to now turn our backs on that and not give them what they were offered. And some of these contractors, like they said to me, they were paying $15 an hour into medical funds, so like $40,000 a year, and now here they are. What if a member has a sick child or a sick significant other? Now we're gonna cut the medical. I think Jersey has it where they give you 3 years, right? So you retire at like 59, and you got 60, 61, 62, and then your Medicare kicks in. That's a tough one, like I said, because I don't know what that does for your spouse. Your people who have like the teachers or the cops or firemen or nurses, they're going to be okay, right? They got their backup plan. The medical. Me myself, I work for the city, so I'll be good. I'm going to have my city medical, so this really won't affect me. But I know a lot of my brothers and sisters that I've worked with my whole career, most of my career with, who don't have that. They don't have that as a fallback plan. Luckily, I kind of saw this coming, so I kind of knew at a point in time I knew I had to go take the job back with the city, and I brought back my time that I had from the '90s to make myself whole with the medical with the city. That's something to fall into. A lot of you guys, like when you get out of 55, if you want to pull a trigger. There's a lot of civil service tests out there. I just got someone a job as a laborer with the city. It's a good gig. I think it's like $50 an hour, like 49 or $50 an hour, $50 and 50 something cents an hour. Not a bad gig. After 1 year, you civil service for life. Full medical. They do an 8-hour day over our 7-hour day. So really, if you look at the end of the year, they're probably making just as much as the carpenter because they're getting an extra 5 hours a week. And if you're a decent laborer with the city, you'll do phenomenal. There's always overtime. And, some people, as soon as you get in there, you can also jump over, become a provisional painter. If you know how to tape, they'll have you taping. If you could do bricky work, they'll pay you mason tenders work if you're doing any type of brickwork. So as soon as you get in as a laborer, you get the civil service title. You can always find ways to hustle and make money if you really want to get in there. It's a good opportunity, especially if somebody wants to come back and put some time with the city and build that medical up and build up a second pension. Just a thought. If anyone want more information about that, they can reach out to me. I post all the time when I know that there's jobs are coming out. I got a couple of connections with some different city agencies, from the Board of Ed to the DOT, to plus with housing and with hospitals. So when I hear about those positions, I try to give them out to our members, as an idea. Because some guys want to retire from the carpenters union. They don't want to deal with the rat race out there. But picking up a job and keeping busy, especially if you got young kids at college. We all know how hard that is to make ends meet nowadays. So have a backup plan. I also push a lot about getting your safety certifications, get all your licenses. When you go outside the city, outside the city limits of New York City, most of these jobs out there to become a safety manager, they look for safety protocol licenses, safety management classes you can take. OSHA 500 is important to have. I took stuff on all different types of safety classes, everything from American Red Cross to opium awareness, because like a lot of people are having problems with their kids and drugs and stuff like that. So a lot of training now goes on with these schools and awareness with coaches. So a lot of these coaches get certified and stuff so they can identify with it. And also, I guess with children, they talk about most of these parents, like when they do that. And also New York State, they're going to have a new requirement coming out for children, I think now. If your daughter's looking to become a babysitter, I think it starts next year. I think at the age of 15, they're going to have some type of safety training. So we're going to need more trainers to train that type of stuff, because there's a shortage already. If anyone tries to get these classes, they'll realize it. I get calls from places from Connecticut all the way to half upstate New York to teach classes. I just don't have the time in the day to do it. I try to help people out where I can in Brooklyn when I used to work. The women I know in the daycare out there, because it's so nice to me, and I just try to do it. And I have a hookup with a law firm that'll pick up the tab for them. So I don't want to put an extra burden on them to have to pay that money out. And that's something to get your hands into. I also have the certification for which I'm in the process of renewing right now for the 5-hour defensive driving course. I highly recommend people getting that. You could also convince your kids after the age of 18 they should start applying to get those things. Having these certification licenses are awesome. It's always a backup plan. I same thing with a notary license. I do a lot of notary work on the side. You could do remote notary, you could do mobile notary. There's a lot of ways to pick up extra money. But I want to bring that up because a lot of our members are retiring and people are nervous and they're telling me about, what they're realizing how much they're getting in their pension and, can they live on it? But they can't keep going because there's no work out there. So I'm just trying to give you guys ideas of ways to, put things together and find work. Like the MTA guys right now, the New York City MTA, they're hiring too. They're hiring painters, masonaries, carpenters. So you just remember, if you're going to retire with the city, right? I mean, you're going to retire as a New York City carpenter, right? You cannot work within the jurisdiction of the New York City District Council of Carpenters under a carpenter title, all right? For some reason, that's the way it reads in the contract, so that holds you back from collecting your pension. Now, don't hold me to that. I believe also locksmithing falls under that. Both my father and my brother were licensed locksmiths, and it was explained to me that would inhibit you from collecting. Now, that's within the jurisdiction. So if you go to work in Jersey, you go to work in Pennsylvania, it doesn't fall on that thing. You can go do what you got to do. But within the jurisdiction of where you're collecting your pension, you cannot work under a carpenter title. That's something to keep in mind, and if you're planning on something to do after retirement, to play on words. Once again, I think it's ridiculous. I think we should be encouraging our guys to take these civil service jobs and not having, non-union guys stepping into these roles and not being there to understand what it took to get these roles and protect our jurisdiction. So with that being said, if I ever make it to the 9th floor and win this election, it's something I would look into, and I would have that changed for our members, right? By doing that, if you did that, and the retirement medical is still there, for every retired member that we got a job with the city, right, whatever title you're taking on there, after you do your 5 years in the city, you get your medical for life. You would take that burden off the outside medical fund, right? Because now him and his family would have retirement medical for the city, which that alone, to me, would be a reason to void that's what they're trying to do. Especially if you're getting another city agent job, it would give you a different set of benefits. I think it would be critical to make sure that we should probably have a waiver or something like that for our members in those particular titles. That's my opinion. So someone's texting me over here about what's going on with the dock of the Timmerman. Well, guys, I'm telling you right now, I tried to explain to you this in the last time what they were doing with this merger. There's 3 funds they want to do throughout the country. They're going to have a Mid-Atlantic, West Coast, and an East Coast, right? They went from 250 district councils down to 13. We're the next on the chopping block. They wanted us gone for a long time. Do we have advocates down there fighting for us? No, we don't. This is all being done. Barbara Jones is put in there for one reason and one reason only, to get rid of the consent decree, right? And the first thing they did was when they pulled the funds away from the consent decree, that gives them the power to do what they're doing right now. We don't have, they're saying that the medical doesn't, that doesn't, our benefit funds and our pension fund is not part of the consent decree. And that was done by design. That wasn't done by accident. That was done by design to do exactly what they want to do. So now you turn around and you got people that are retired from the counts for the international, they start their own medical funds, right? So let's just say to yourself, if me and you own the company right now, right? We started a prescription company, right? And we're generating money, right, from the membership, bringing the money. How do we maximize our profits now? How do we maximize that, right? That's what we're going to do. We're businessmen. We don't give a fuck about the rank and file. We want to make money, right? So just like everyone else, how do I do it, right? Cut costs. How do I cut costs? Well, I could do so much with office costs, right? Because everything's digital now, so you need less and less power with people, especially with these AI programs that are out there. So what do? I convince all my retirees not to pay their union cards anymore, right? Because you don't need to pay that $18 a month. And now, right now, you're not a threat, so I don't need you in the election to vote for me, and you're not anyone to hinder or vote against me, right? So now, you're just a dead man walking to me. So now, what does it take for me to cut your medical, right? I own a prescription company. I want to maximize my money, right? So the money coming in, I don't have to pay that money out for those group of members anymore. That's more profit for me and my company. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way I'm pretty much going to tell you it's going to play out. So, a lot of the people there, they're there for themselves. You know, a lot of these members that moved up to the ranks, they were never carpenters, they never swung a hammer. They walked away with 2 or 3 pensions. You know, their buyouts from the international were over $1 million. They'll see more money and more wealth out of this industry than you'll ever see. Putting 40 years breaking your back. So, you know, that shows you where they came from and where they're going. When someone has that, someone has that intent in their blood and their heart, you know, they're not looking out for us anymore. So that's my opinion. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, it's what I'm being explained to me by people that I know from everywhere from the West Coast to the Mid-Atlantic, telling me to, you know, for us to watch our back and, you know, keep fighting and don't give it up. And the guys I talked to Chicago, you know, when they got screwed over, but they got merged like 2 or 3 times, they would tell me, and then the medical changed a bunch of times. They have 2 different medical tiers now. One that they do 1,300 hours a year, the other one's 1,600. If they fall into a lower bracket, they just get the 1,300 one, which is just basic medical with prescription, and they get like high deductibles. And then the other one, they have to maintain 1,600 hours a year. We have 840 hours, right, for pension credit, so that's going to be a huge difference. You know, when this system gets done and our merger goes through, the 55 and out will be done. I mean, they gave it up before, right? When the International was here last time, before Mike Biela got elected, they already made deals to raise the medical to 30 pension credits and to have 57 or 58 for retirement age. And when Mike Biela got in, he got that reversed. He sat down with the people upstairs and they negotiated it. And I'm actually going to do another podcast video with Mike Biela to help explain that more and help him explain how he put a stop to the merger when they tried to take the millwrights and the dock builders away from us back in the past. Maybe we can mirror that information and try you with the attorneys and try to put a stop to what we want to do. I think it's important. Yeah, so that's about it. The airport work is the other thing guys are asking me about, the airport work and the parking arrangements at the airport. I know Terminal 6 is parking at the airport. Guys, the other place, you're going to have to park over in the bus area, and they're going to bus you in and out. Someone just sent me a message about that. I have no say in that. Please don't ask me to send you to what job, to where it is. Listen, I got a couple of my friends that are contractors out there. I know some general foremen, some supers. I can't predict where you're going to be sent. You guys have to figure that out. I had an apprentice call me up 2 weeks ago screaming at me because I sent her to a job that had no air conditioning. She told me, "Do you know how hot it was? Do you know how hot it was?" I was like, "Now listen, I didn't do it on purpose. You know, I'm not trying to make fun of you. You know, I know you're a first year apprentice starting in the business, but unfortunately, that's this business. You know, it's believe me, it sucks. I've been in those situations and just walking on a job at 6:30 in the morning, going, "Oh my God, it's so hot out," and it's just like you walk in there. My best advice for you is pick up a cheap fan. You know, do the best you can. Bring a lot of baby powder, some handy baby wipes. You know, stay hydrated. You know, if it gets too bad for you and you're up in some of these ceilings and you get too dizzy and you can't do it, you know, don't do it. You know, get down off the thing. If it's a safety thing and you feel like you're going to lose consciousness, don't get hurt. Don't hurt yourself, especially as an apprentice. You know what? Listen, if it gets that bad and they're going to let you go because of that, then, you know, you reach back out to me and we'll find another spot for you. I'm not going to make anyone do anything that I wouldn't do myself. Believe me, I did some things in my younger years which I probably wouldn't do today, you know. But, you know, I understand she's a first-year apprentice. It was tough on her. So, you know, at first I probably broke the chops a little bit, but I apologized afterwards and gave her a second chance. So she's doing better now. So, listen, when you're walking in, you don't expect things like that. I guess it's a lot to take on, you know, especially that little bit of a heat wave we have. I think it was hard for anyone to be working in those conditions. But I think when you first come in the industry for your first week on the job, to be that hot and muggy must have been terrible. She's probably like, what did I sign up for? You know? With that being said, too, if you're a woman on a job like that and you're having an issue with bathrooms or stuff like that, speak to your shop steward, you know, and if your shop steward doesn't want to do anything about it, or in this case, you don't even know who your shop steward is, that's pretty bad. You got to get that figured out right away. If you're not getting an answer for them, then you should reach out to your business agent. And if you don't know who your business agent is, contact me. At the very least, I will give you the information for Dennis out in 45 if that's where you're working, or Anthony Medeo in Manhattan. They're both the regional reps. They will, you give them the information, you can send them a text message or email, at least have the name of your company, the location of the job you're working on, and the floor you're working on. They will not throw you under the bus. Obviously, the only woman on a job site, that might be an issue, but maybe they could do like a surprise visit, or they could light a fire under the steward on that job and get him to do something about it without pushing your button. But if not, we could usually talk to the GC. I could do something behind the scenes and get that working for you. I had to do it with JP Megan or JP Morgan recently. We'll get the bathrooms all cleaned up on the job when I had some other trades actually reach out to me that I helped do safety classes with. And some of our carpenters were there too, and they had an issue, and I helped rectify it. I wrote emails myself personally to JT Megan, got that straightened out with the bathrooms and everything. But no, you shouldn't have to deal with that, especially as a woman. I could get it. Some of these bathrooms on the job can be really disgusting. Once again, guys, it's your home. Keep it clean. It's the best I can tell you. We always have pigs on the job that just treat things like garbage and trash, but, that's in every industry. Listen, take good care of it and clean up. I was just talking to someone the other day when we were down at the school, and, you walk around and you see, like, the gum prints around where the cafeteria area was. We were talking about the school was on 26th Street back in the day, how spotless that school was. When I first started in the union, I got to tell you guys, that school was pristine. When I tell you clean, the bathrooms were spotless, the floors were spotless. The apprentices took really good care. Like, they knew, there was no screwing around. Like, there was, if you got caught fucking around and messing things up there, you forget about it. They would have cut you up. I know when guys used to miss days of school, some of these guys would get their ass chewed out. But, it's another thing, too. When you're down there, guys, try to keep track of what it is. Let's try to keep our place in order, that building represents us. So it's, when you walk in there and you're a senator or a governor or a developer or something like that, you walk into that building, you got to take pride in that building, because that's our image. That's what sells us, right? That's what sells us as a trade organization, is how we represent ourselves, right? We represent ourselves by being skilled trade union members. So, little things like that. Like when I go to look at certain things, you look at the little things, like walking around a building, and I look down at the floors, see how nasty everything is. That's tough. It's like when you walk in the city of New York right now, how the mayor and everything keeps the city like all crappy, and there's garbage everywhere in the street and the subway. It's an image. It sets an image in New York, period, on everybody. It's a chosen handful who caused it. We all look bad. So let's try to keep that in mind when we're down at that school. It's important. So anyway, so we got that all set up with the apprentices out there, guys. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. The interior finish now is dead. There's nothing out there. This is the economy. This was we're still feeling the effects of COVID. I was never a big plan when they shut everything down. I kept working through COVID because I was working for the city at the time. I never missed a beat. My wife was home every day. She worked from home. Everyone I knew worked from home. My whole entire neighborhood, everyone wondered what I did for a living, because I was the only guy that got my truck every morning and went to work. No one knew what the hell I was doing. That's affecting us now, because a lot of people haven't gone back to work. And I still talk to people to this day that are just went out to lunch the other night and dinner with my buddy's sister-in-law, and she's the vice president of a bank. And she works from home. She don't even work in her office. She works from home. So that's just another example. And she actually is in the commercial real estate end of it, where they own these buildings and rent out floors and stuff like that. So she's another business like that. Back in the day, that bank would have had a building with several floors of people working there. Now everybody works remotely like this from their phone. So without those office spaces, that's our bread and butter. We used to renovate those all the time. I can't tell you throughout my career how many years I worked at the World Trade Center, right? Building them, renovating them, building them. My father and my grandfather were on the original build of that back in the 70s. And I actually have pictures of me working on the same floor. And I found a point by an elevator shaft and had markings on the wall. And I found that years later. And I took a picture. I got to find that picture one day, but I got a picture of them from the 70s standing in that corner, and I got a picture of me standing in it years later, like in the early 90s. So it's something in this business. This was a father and son business. the legacy behind it was a big part, which has caused a lot of our problems now because a lot of guys have packed up and left, and I think out of frustration, people out of work. I had a guy text me the other day. He's been out 8 months. It's tough, guys. I can't get everyone to work. I wish I could. Believe me, if I could do it, I'd have you all out there. Well, I know we're not. We could barely do more as far as making sure people down there are doing their jobs and getting out and enforcing these PLAs. Once again, until we have someone down there that's willing to do that, there was a big problem. I heard yesterday they all went to some supermarket to picket duty and scream and yell. The jobs are redone. I guess that was their answer to the problem. I know that they're under a lot of pressure down there. That guys are being caught hanging out in diners and hanging out having coffee all day, and they're not doing their jobs. Listen, if you're a business agent organizer doing that, shame on you. I still think we have some great business agents and organizers down there. People, when you're trying to do something and the people around you aren't appreciative, or you get, you got to answer to every question, you tend to just throw your hands up and say, fuck it, I'm along for the ride. That shouldn't be the way it's done down there. We should be pushing each other and figuring out every day when you wake up, how do we fight to get our brothers and sisters back to work? And if you don't have that compassion in you, just to get a job and be a rubber stamp and bob your head, even when things aren't right, that's pretty sad. But I guess that's how people make it in this business, right? You just keep your head down and hope for the best. And, most of those guys that I won't stick up for you, they never did in the bill. Half these guys, they worked on the outside. They were put there by somebody. They didn't have to put the name on the out of work list. They never, half of them never had to suffer the stuff that the average member does. So they don't appreciate what they have, and they're just looking out for themselves, which that's what happens in the industry over the time. So, all right, I'm going to try to see if any other questions came in here. I got some text messages going off behind the scenes. I think it's... What else we got going here? More questions about the medical. As of right now, guys, there's nothing changing as far as I know with the hours for the medical. I know the banked hours are different now, right? We don't bank the hours the same. I know in Jersey and other parts of the country they don't have banked hours, period, so that would be a change. Once again, how they're going to do that, I don't know. We won't have a say in it, Just like I keep telling everyone, the way it was explained to me was they'll keep the council there, they'll give it 2 or 3 years, and then the pension fund owns the building, so the board of trustees will make a decision what happens with the building down the road, not us. The delegates won't have a say in it and everything like that. That'll change too. The delegates will be the way everyone will be elected in is going to change. So a lot of you guys that are down there think that you're part of a system. You believe me, you're only there because you're seat warmers. They put you there for a reason. They're to fill some seats, but after they don't need you no more, they're going to discard you. Unfortunately, I hate to want to tell you this, but that's the way it's going to be played out to you. And by the time you guys realize what's going on, it'll probably be too late, and you guys will realize that it's over. But sometimes that's how it plays out. Guys asked me at the Carpenter magazine. They show the bullshit to me. Listen, guys, the magazine, once again, that's put out there to sell a narrative, to make you smile and make you think the world is perfect. We all know that nothing's perfect in this world, right? Everyone's going to bitch about something. So the magazine, I think it's got some good points in it. I love the fact that we honor our retirees and we do some of those job site high points to give our members recognition, which I always wish we should have done that a long time ago. I like the way that's done. I think it's important, and I want our apprentices to see some of our members who put the time in and made it to retirement. To me, that's important. So, guys ask me if I'm running in the election. I will admit to you, I am running in this election, but I will not tell you who my team is. But yes, I do have a full team. I know who I'm running with, and I will be running in this election. So I'll be getting my signatures soon, and we're off to the races. I heard Carl Celli put his hat in the ring. Good luck, Carl. I commend you. I think anyone who wants to run in this union should have a right to run. I encourage more people to get involved. If you think you could weather the storm and get out there and you have something to say, go do it. That's what this is all about. Unions are built on people who stood up for what they believe in. Not everyone's going to be, a follower and go along with the pro-co what's going on here. You can't sit back and wait for other people to fix the problems. I'd be a hypocrite if I stood back and complained and wasn't willing to do anything about it. This will be my last election. That much I will tell you. I'm completely done with it, especially with these mergers going through. I don't see the, after if this merger goes through with the benefits and everything like that, I don't see much left of what we know as this union to be here anyway. I'll be so close past my retirement age at that point anyway. I have other plans and other things that I've had put in the work throughout my life, which I think I'm going to start moving in a different direction. For those that don't know, I actually got hurt at work a couple of weeks ago. So I'm out for right now. I'm trying to get back to work. Hopefully I'll be doing better. I got to go to the doctor again next week, and hopefully I can get back to work myself. But that's what I'm saying. Things can happen very quickly. That's another thing someone brought up to me one day, and it's actually a question here. We offer through the Carpenters Union. The council employees have it. It's called AFLAC, right? The council employees get it. We don't get it. We get it to the Carpenters Union. You can get it. I get it through the city, but you can get it to the Carpenters Union. I have the main distributor guy's name and information for AFLAC. For people that are out of work, it might seem like a lot of money to put that money aside, but having it is very important, especially for someone like me. I ride motorcycles, I do different things. So God forbid a situation like that where you're injured or something happens, it's a supplemental income on top of your workers' comp to try to keep you above water. Because, in today's day and age, everyone knows money doesn't go too far, right? So I have that information if anyone's looking for it. If they want to get the information from the guy, maybe make a call out to the president of the locals and have the guy speak to the members. I think you should do it. I think I pay with everything with my cancer cases and everything. I did cancer override and my hospitalization and everything. I think I pay $100 a month, maybe 100 and change. I've had it for years. I think it's important to have it, just like I have death benefits. I have actually 2 life insurance policies. One I bought back when I was in my 20s, and then the other one I bought recently when I bought my house with my fiance. I just figured it was something else to make sure she's okay. I always joke around to make sure her and her new boyfriend have plenty of money. It's something you got to look forward to, that if something was to go wrong, that you're covered in it. So that was a question that came up. I forgot to bring that up to the members. So, and that's like I said, I got hurt. Wasn't something last minute of the day, actually a little last second of the day, and I got zapped or something. It was fucking stupid. I should have, I don't know, something I wasn't even working, but I slipped on a ladder. I was in a lot of pain for a couple of days, but I'm feeling a little bit better now, so hopefully I'm all right. Except my shoulders are shot, my elbows, but I think that's a little bit of old age. I think it's wear and tear on the body after all these years of lift and stuff. So, all right, so guys, I just wanted to keep this one short because I got a bunch of things today. I'm going to a picnic. Got some stuff to do. I know the softball tournament's coming out, so guys that are looking to put time in their softball tournament. What's going on here? Someone just sent me another text. Yeah, I already stopped this before. They tell me that there's jobs going on Red Hook Millwood project. 1010 labor is doing the work. Yep, I know. I've already stopped this, bro. This is the argument that me and Jerry Matthews had to deal with at Brook Ellen and everything. This is just part of it. Someone's sending us pictures. Here you go, guys. Look, that's actually laborers right there. Let's see, cover that up. That's actually laborers right there on the job right now, working today, doing our work, doing curbing and flooring and everything on the job site on the thing. And by the way, just so you know, 1010 laborers don't get to do carpenter's work or any curbing and do that if it's past the property line. They're building benches. See, that's them right there. Someone sent us to work. So I don't know what'll happen with that, but listen, you gotta, this is how we do it, right? This is all form work. See, it's all form work being done right there. Wait, I'll get you onto the screen. See that? That's all our work being done, and I don't know who or what's gonna get out there. Hopefully, we can get someone out there today and get this work taken care of. Oh, look at that! Look at the pad work being done right there. See that? Yep. All right. So this is how it's done, guys. We have to work together on that. See something like this. Now we get on top of this. We get the word out to Paul. I will say one thing about Paul. I might be running against him in an election, but Paul Paul will fucking push on this one. You know, you gotta, he can't do it if he doesn't know about it, right? And if someone's not doing their job, one thing I'll tell you about Paul, he won't stand for it. He's going to push them to get their job done. He's going to want answers. So we have to all be out there policing our work for our brothers and sisters. Just because you're working every day and you have that luxury and you're going to work, you got to think about your brothers and sisters. Remember, one day that could be you waiting, looking for a job, and someone else checking up on something like this. A job like this, and putting one of our members to work would be important. So, and we can't give this work over to the laborers. We have Eddie now representing the laborers, and Eddie probably, hopefully, he'll do the right thing and get involved in this, and he'll make sure that the work comes back our way. But we'll see what happens, right? All right, guys, listen, let me cut short on this one. Like I said, I got a picnic to go to. I wish everyone a good weekend. It's going to be some beautiful weather today and tomorrow. Let's all hope for the best, and let's see how this election goes. And I want to wish luck to anybody who's stepping into this election and running. Best of luck to everyone, even for Paul and Dave and Adam. Good luck. I wish everyone luck in this election, and hopefully we can have a couple of good debates so we can get the truth and the answers out to the members, all right? Have a good one, guys. Bye.